Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good.
It's so nice to virtually meet you both today. Hello, Anna.
Hi. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Anna, how are you?
It's Monday.
It's Monday.
Oh,
Gotta love those Mondays. I want to thank you both for being here so much. You're two of my favorite people on the planet, so I was really happy that you were interested in chatting about your series together and just getting to talk a little bit about it in general. So,
Great. It's happy to
thank you
be.
for having us. Yeah.
How do I say your name? Is it Siri or Sari?
well, it actually is Sery, but my real name is Serenity, but that's kind of a mouthful, so I just go by that on here because it's shorter.
Serenity. It's pretty though.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
It's like the Matrix. Did your parents? You were obviously born. When were you born like in comparison to the Matrix?
I'm the class of 2001 being born, so.
Okay. So yeah, Serenity. That's funny. All right.
Okay, so for those, I want to do a little quick introduction. We have award-winning, wonderful author Anna Gomez in the building with us, and her amazing co-author Kristoffer Polaha, which you will know from the beloved Hallmark channel, as well as movies like Jurassic World, Dominion, and Wonder Woman. And those are some of my favorites as well. So, do you all want to say a little bit of what your book is about, just to give people a little sense of it?
Which book?
Well, let's start with moments like this.
Sure. Chris, you want to start?
Sure. Moments like this is about a woman named Andy who is really sacrificing a lot of her personal life for work and for advancements in work. And when those advancements pass her by, she has an opportunity to go to Hawaii and sort of take care of a friend's coffee shop and get some rest. And in doing so, meets a mysterious man, and they go on a moments tour, and they really just live in the moment, and they don't want to know anything about each other's pasts, and they go on this really beautiful journey around Oahu. It's a keyhole, escapist, sort of really wonderful, light book that fills you up with joy as you read it. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but they may or may not end up together. I don't know.
May or may not.
But it spawns an entire universe, and we have this series From Kona with Love, and we meet the people that take place in book two. So it was a cool way to sort of introduce everybody in the series and to start telling stories.
That summed it up beautifully. I really loved how when reading the book and I read the title for the first time, like have it how it was like so subtly planted in there. I just thought that was chef's kiss.
Good. Hannah gets credit because I was like, wouldn't it be moments like these? And she's like, no, it's moments like this. We're gonna keep it present tense, and it's like it's about this moment, and it's about this moment happening. And it was really smart of her because I was like, wouldn't you want to say moments like these? Because
Well, now I'm thinking maybe it should have been moment like this. I don't know.
no, it works though. I like it. Moments like this. Because it's about moments like this. Like this is the moment, right? And there's
Yeah.
several of these moments. But yeah, it's the response has been really wonderful to these books. They obviously the first one was published back in 2021.
Yes.
Yeah.
The second book followed in 2022. We were on quite a tear, Anna.
Yeah. Yeah. And then life got busy. So
We were just chopping, we were just going through it. But and spawned some incredible readership. Like people have gone to Hawaii and they've taken the tours. They've gone to the spots that all the characters have gone to and taken pictures, and it's really been a pretty special thing to be a part of.
I love that. I was going to ask, do you think there will be more from you two in the future after these two?
oh, definitely. We're just really trying to like settle down and find the time, right? Chris got really busy the last couple years.
Mhm.
Yeah, just maneuvering through a full-time job, as you know. So yeah, no, but we plan on doing it. Chris has written quite a bit on book three already. He actually wrote book three and four.
Wow.
We're still trying to decide if it's three or four, or just three or four or five. But no, we're just trying to really just manage to our schedules right now.
Gotcha. I'm very happy that journey is going to continue with you both. How did that sort of happen? Like, I know I read the acknowledgments and I loved seeing a little bit into that, but like, how did this writing partnership sort of come about?
Through a good friend of ours named Javier, who connected the two of us. I was looking for the next steps in my book, in my writing career of trying to have these books made into movies, or just trying to meet somebody who would potentially help get them made into movies. And Javier is a good friend of mine who was Chris's neighbor.
Hmm.
And so he connected the two of us and we got on a Zoom call. Yeah, and that's kind of the rest is history, right?
It really is. And I think the pandemic had a pretty
Yeah,
large part. It played a pretty large part in our collaboration because Anna and I were both home.
Yeah.
Um, we were like the world. We were all kind of stuck at home waiting this whole thing out. And so we had the time, I think, and the bandwidth to take on a creative project that was really unexpected. And Anna gets all the credit because she had started a world with all of her previous books as
Mhm.
Christine Bray and was like, I'm doing this thing. The original intent of the phone call was to talk about turning maybe some of her books into Hallmark movies, you know, right? And like trying to work on that. And and the conversation was we had a good like an hour and a half conversation on Zoom. We just started talking. And by the end of it, Anna extended this invitation to me and she was like, I'm working on this series of books that take place in Hawaii. And I was like, oh, my kid was born in Hawaii. I know, I love what island? And we started talking about Oahu. And I was like, I know it. And then she invited me to enter into her world. And she was like, if you want to co-write these with me, um, come and do this. And I remember Anna saying, you probably need to talk to your agent and your husband
yeah,
about it first, but if they're cool with it. And she's like, let's talk next week. And so that was a Friday. And we talked again on Monday, and we were wearing the exact same kind of shirt. So we thought that was funny because it was like Kismet. And then we had contracts signed on Wednesday. So less than a week, we agreed and went forward with it. And our first book was finished July.
yeah. But you really weren't home because you were home for the first part and then you were filming in London.
Right.
So you kind of worked on it a lot in London too, didn't you?
My part was written in London. Yeah. Because
Yeah,
I was quarantined for 15 days. And
yeah,
so what I did for 15 days was, and you had started the book and you had created sort of the premise of it. And so it was easy for me to jump in and a different kind of collaboration than the second book was because the second book,
yeah,
we called it Chapter Tennis, but the first book had been, Andy's whole Chicago life and up to her leaving and going to Hawaii. All of that was already written by Anna. And so I was able to jump in and just kind of write little chapters and kind of it was a different process, but it was also a lot of fun. I'll never forget that first. I'd send her a chapter and I'd be like, "What did you think?" Because I wasn't a I still don't really call myself a writer, but I am a writer now. But because of Anna, I learned so much from her, and I would just send her a chapter, and I'd be like, and I would be such a nervous Nilly waiting, and her response was so encouraging. She's like, "This is perfect. It's beautiful. Write another one."
it was. And you're responsible for all the moment tours, really, because you were actually there, right? So, yeah, so it was really a great collaboration. The first one, the second one was, an even greater collaboration in terms of actually writing it together. Um, and I think there were different experiences, but they made the books what they were, right? So the second one is deeper. The second one has more angst, I would say, and a lot more research because I had no idea about surfing. Um, and I think there were different journeys for the different books, and obviously looking forward to more journeys for the third or fourth or fifth book. So
That's really so beautiful. I was wondering how that sort of works because like every time I hear that there's a co-written book, I'm like, how does that process work? And I think it differs for everyone. And so the fact that you would send chapters to Anna and then get her feedback, because like the whole time I was reading, it felt like one voice. So that was beautifully done.
Yeah.
thank you.
I think
Yeah,
that
I
was
mean we'd go back and forth, right, Chris? But then we would always make sure that we had kind of consolidated things and like melded them together so that it wasn't, you couldn't even tell the second book, you couldn't tell who was writing what because we were
Yeah.
taking turns,
Right.
sometimes Adam, sometimes Meili.
Yeah, that was the fun part was that sometimes Anna would write for Adam, and then sometimes I would write for Melee. And so it wasn't even like the boy writing the boy and the girl writing the girl. It was sometimes we would
Yeah,
I mean, you get all the credit in moments like this because I would send in the chapters and you would kind of like sanded everything and really put everything together for that first book. That was a very different, again, a totally different format of collaborating than the second one is. And I think that's why it's taken us so long to do a follow-up because it was, again, the pandemic played. I was uh, shooting movies where I had 15-day quarantines, and I think you
yeah,
were working from home at that point, right?
yeah. I wasn't traveling as much. So, yeah. And the second book, I mean, the process for the first and second books are more or less the same in the end, where, you know, Kris would write everything that he can and then make the changes as we go through everything. And then I would kind of be like the final eye just to kind of make sure that the voices weren't, you know, overly different.
Yeah.
That would be the same writing style or the same paragraph style or whatever. So then that's where it becomes very technical because it's not the creating anymore. It's just the putting things together. And um, it's probably the worst part of it, honestly, because we get to write and get to write and write and create. And then you have to go through this technical part that the publisher requires that makes sure that you're talking in one voice, right?
Mm.
So,
It's also funny because you throw a lot of babies out with the bath water, and there were some
yeah,
beautiful that get edited out, and for the sake of, timing and streamlining the story, and it's like, well, why did you go off into this little tangent? Let's cut that off. And
yeah,
it's interesting
yeah,
what makes the final cut and what doesn't.
yeah. And it's fun to keep those versions actually. I keep all the versions. It's fun to see like what
You
was
really?
actually,
Yeah.
yeah, what actually made it versus what's actually in the written book, published book versus what we wrote. Like, you know, there are differences and there were big cuts, right?
Yeah.
Couple chapters. So
Yeah.
That's really great that you have like that little collection to look back on because, I have learned so much about the industry in general, and now that I actually work in it, it's like you learn a lot of the behind the scenes and like the final edits and everything, like you said, to make sure everything flows perfectly and naturally. And so it's really amazing when, you hear the phrase sometimes like writing's the easy part.
yeah, writing's the easy part. But the good thing that I was thinking about too is that we're friends, right? We have a friendship and a trust. So it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to get together and say what we have to cut and this is what we have to change. But at the same time, like there's so much trust in there that it was like, okay, if you think this needs to go, or Kris would also be adamant about things that needed to stay. And I'd be like, okay, if you think this needs to stay. And he was the same with me, like these things need to be there. Even when we were working on the script together, it's like there are certain things that we needed to be there, like this you can't cut or this you need to mention or things. It's really just a coordination, right? And I think we're lucky that we have a friendship and that trust and that collaboration. Otherwise, it makes it more difficult because then you get to publishers and editors and all the outside third parties that like kind of come in and just like look at your work and you're like, okay, wait, hold on.
It's not my fault. It's his
Yeah, it's
fault.
like, hold on, wait, you just hurt my feelings. Remember, like we
Right.
were like, oh my gosh.
It's funny. The first edit for Where the Sun Rises was rough, and it was like one of those things you're like, oh God, like I thought we wrote something really good, and it was interesting because I feel like both Anna and I, and forgive me for speaking for you, Anna, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like with book one, we were writing in a way like we were both acting and saying we're going to write a very specific type of book, and so we kind of wrote a very specific type of romance novel. And then with book two, we were like, you know what, we have something here. Let's drop in and write the book that we wanted to write without any sort of pretense or without any kind,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And let's
yeah,
write a book that digs a little deeper and that has more angst in it and that has a little more human
yeah,
frailty. Um, and let's get to know these characters more. And I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, Adam, like, it's interesting. He's a character that I really care a lot about and, had some similarities with. And so it was like you start putting yourself into the book and then it becomes
Hmm.
a lot more personal because you're like, hey, wait a minute, you don't like that? You don't like me.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because I think with book two, yeah, it was just the process it was a really beautiful one actually. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it was a cool.
Yeah, it was a test. I think it was a test to like our partnership and our friendship and all that because there was a lot more involved again, like as I said, right? The book one was like a breeze. Like everyone's like, oh, we love it. Okay, yeah, okay, go. Book two was like,
Yeah. Like stop, start over, do this.
yeah,
We had a whole different way the book began. Like we had written this book that started with Andy and Warren again, and that there was a handoff in the middle of book, or like after part one, it was a handoff to Adam and Melee, and the editors were like, "Let's lose it." So we had to reconfigure the timeline, and we had to. I mean, we went in and there was a lot of work done,
yeah,
uh, shaved
yeah,
down a lot of chapters, and so making a book is it's a really interesting process because there's a lot of freedom
Mhm.
in how you tell the story because there's no budgetary constraints. It's not like, it's like let's take him to the moon, let's do this, let's do that. We could do whatever you want, but then at the same time, uh, you do have a lot of people that start weighing in that
And
maybe
there's a lot of research, right? Because we were basically trying to make everything as realistic as possible. It's probably the worst part too, the research. Because then
it's
you're not really creating, you're just like plotting places, what to see in that place, what's special about it. Moments was easy for me because you wrote all the moments tours and you were actually there. So that,
there. Yeah, it was
yeah,
easy
so
for me.
there it was easy for you. And it was easy, it was an easy read because like you could really immerse yourself in there. The second book had a lot of things that we had to research and mountains and cliffs and tide pools and
I
where
feel
she
like
was
you brought
gonna go to surf. Like, remember, like where would she surf? Where would she compete? What would the competition be? All that stuff.
a lot of technical stuff that I feel like,
Yeah.
to be honest, it might have we might have bogged ourselves down, like having to take them on a tour of Kauai, trying to repeat the formula might have been like it. I mean, it worked. It's not. It doesn't take up too many chapters, and it is a nice way to see Kauai in book two.
Yeah.
But it definitely deals with their inner life more than the outer life.
Yep. Yep. Definitely.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we're just talking over you. Just ask your questions.
No, I believe me, I love it. I feel like I'm really in the midst of this wonderful conversation, and I love hearing all the inside stories because I love getting to hear how the process came to be, and like you were saying about Chris was there, so he knew exactly like how to describe everything in the book. And as someone who has never even been on an airplane, it made me feel like I was there. So thank you for that. Like, I know, Anna, you have written multiple books, and was writing something you always wanted to do, or did it come just at one point later in life and you was like, oh, I want to do this?
I didn't really want to do it. I wrote one book. Um, as it was therapeutic for me to write about my mom and like I lost her at an early age. And then yeah, so I wasn't really planning to do this and it just kind of snowballed into and then it was a good stress reliever, right? So for every point in my life and every point in my career, I had stuff to say. So I just kept writing. But no, I didn't. And I don't have any formal training. It's so funny because I had this interview the other day about like how to be a great writer. Like, what is your advice to be a great writer? And I'm like, I'm not a great writer. So like I actually changed the question because I'm like, I'm not trained in this. I just write. Like, just like Chris. I mean, Chris, you probably have more training than me because like you actually took the arts, like you actually went to school. I went to school for finance. So
I mean, I do like story. Yeah, like I think with story.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, you
Yeah.
know,
But it was funny because when Anna invited me into her world and said, do you want to collaborate with me? I had to read her books over the course of a weekend because I didn't know if it was like Harlequin sort of like lit porn. I didn't know what to expect. I was like, wait, what did I just say yes to? And what if it's like, what if I'm, what will I, is the word throbbing gonna be like, am I gonna have to start working like on all my different terminology? And I think that she and I have one of the reasons why the collaboration has worked so beautifully is because I think that we have a very similar bandwidth for storytelling and a very similar, like we run on a very similar creative um, vibration, if you will.
Mhm.
And I would write a chapter and send it to Anna in hopes that she would respond. I'd be like, man, I hope that it takes this turn. And then she would make that turn. She would take the turn that intuitively I was hoping she would take. And I feel like there was at one point, you know, uh, Melee had to get out of a car and she had to take her seatbelt off. And it was this detail that I'd thought about and I hadn't said anything. And Anna wrote it. And it was like, yeah, it's perfect. Like it was one of those things where we kept finding our voice like falling into link and into sync at the same. Like, it was cool. But I do feel like when you start asking what great writing is, and it's like I don't know that Stephen King would have called himself a great writer. He just did it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
Harlan Coben is somebody who's he just you start doing it, and then all of a sudden you have a brand new book that just came out, and your writing is getting increasingly like I'll say this not to disparage the original writing, but like it keeps getting better and better and better. And so like your new book is a fantastic read.
Well, thank you, but that's part of honing your craft in anything,
Mhm.
right? Which is what you and I would advise like young writers. It's like you have to hone your craft. You can't just from the get-go be a great writer or have your stories resonate with people. It takes a while. It just like, takes a while, maybe in your craft, in acting. It takes a while in singing, Caleb. Like it just takes time, right? And I think that's what I'm learning from all of this. I think, and I think the lesson I'm taking from this type of craft, which I'm really not schooled in or like, which is like a side thing for me, is that there's a lot of components to it that kind of has to like all come together. And if it doesn't, and then, that's kind of what you have to work on so that it does come together. And the thing is, coming together takes a lot of time. So, like this latest book I wrote that you mentioned, I wrote it in 4 months only because I wrote the other books. Like if I didn't write the other books, I wouldn't have had the confidence to write this book. It's just all interconnected. So
I
I'm
was
still not a great writer. I still need a few more years.
You're a wonderful writer. And congratulations on your recent release, Somewhere Along the Way. I'm so happy that you have shared your gifts with the world and will continue to do so because just because you may not have went to school for it doesn't mean you're not a great writer. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And and Kris, Where Hope Grows is coming to Netflix. I heard on the announcement in the next couple of days, or well, next few days. And so it was actually kind of a full circle moment because my aunt is actually the one that gifted me my copy of Moments Like This, and you may recognize her from the Chautauqua and everything, Livia Lane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she has been raving about your books and everything, and we've watched all the Hallmark movies and everything that you've been in, to be honest. And so she gifted me my copy, and I read it in like 2 hours. And so with Where Hope Grows, she is actually pretty close to Detroit, and I'm pretty close to Louisville, Kentucky. So it just sort of feels like a full circle moment from all this, and then here we are chatting about your book. So
That's
Yeah,
cool.
congrats on that, Chris. I saw that on
Yeah, it's
social.
always nice when Netflix decides to pick up something because it really does expose it to a global.
Yeah,
It's cool. Yeah.
and means it's good enough to pick up because they don't pick up if it's
Yeah, they
not.
don't have.
Yeah,
Yeah, they don't do what they don't
yeah,
need.
it's great.
I know you said that lockdown and everything, where you all had time to write and get the books together. But like, had you ever had writing cross your mind? I know Anna said it sort of just fell into her lap where she started doing it. But like, was that something you always wanted to do, or just something that?
I'll tell you a crazy story. The pandemic happened. My brother-in-law is a novelist. My father-in-law has written books. So and I was avid reader in high school and college, like throughout. I mean, I would go through Hemingway phases or Faulkner phases or Steinbeck phases or Plath phases or whatever. I would just consume like one author's sort of entire canon and really do deep dives. And so I had these like chapters in my life where I could define them by the, like the beatnik, like Jack Kerouac. In college, Jack Kerouac was massive on my horizon, and then Hemingway. And then so writing has always been something that I've enjoyed books. Um, and I woke up in March of 2020 and I had this fever dream, and it was a children's book. And I woke up and I wrote it like the next day and started Googling how to self-publish and started Googling like how to get involved in books and books and books. And like 2 weeks later, Javier introduced me to Anna. It was the weirdest. And so when Anna said, "Are you interested?" I was already, my mind was like, "Yes, I am interested. How do we do this?" And so it was weird how it felt kind of like God opened a door, in my heart and mind. And I had actually, I think Anna, remember me telling you this. Um, I had actually was during the same time period looking in the supermarket at romance.
Yeah, you said that. Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder if I could collaborate with somebody because of Hallmark. And it just seemed like a really smart move to create IP. And we've discovered it's a lot harder said than done. You might publish a book and then it still takes forever to get a movie made out of it. Um, but yeah, it was interesting because I had started mapping in my mind a little plan, and it's bizarre to me how, and then Anna just sort of flooded into the fold, and it was an easy, and the collaboration has always been pleasant. It's always been filled with absolute mutual respect and a tenderness and a love for each other that is. I got your invitation, your son's invitation, by the way.
Oh,
Just I had to go through my mail. I went through my
I
mail.
know.
I got it. We have it. I'll RSVP. I'm going to try to be there. Hopefully Julianne will join me. Hopefully we'll be able to make it. Um, but yeah, it's interesting how it worked. It was really to me fascinating how there was a moment where I put something into the universe and it was answered by a Zoom sort of call with Anna. Like it was wild, and it is weird how quickly and easily moments like this happen. We wrote a
Yeah.
thing. They
Yeah.
publishers immediately were like, "Great, perfect. We're going to press." I mean, it was wild how, and then it sold like hotcakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
People
did.
are impressed
It
by how
did.
it sold, and not just sold like e-copies and stuff. I mean, we sold books that people have and
Yeah.
owns, and very few returns on, thousands and thousands of books sold. Like it was a big success.
Yeah, you have to understand, like this industry is really based on momentum. You have it, you don't, right? So like we really rode that wave for book one. And then book two, life became a little bit busy. You always have to be on it. And our book two, actually the reviews are even better than book one. I mean, we're almost a 5-star average, review.
Yeah.
But maybe we didn't just go out as much or, you know, put it out there as much. We sold a lot of copies still, but you know, we're learning the industry and we're learning lessons together, which is the point I wanted to bring up too. Like a lot of people are friends and they're like, okay, let's do something together. Let's go into a project together. Let's collaborate together. We went the opposite way. We collaborated and became friends, which I think was the better way to do it actually, because you get to know a person through that collaboration. And then whether or not that collaboration happens or goes, or if we end in book three or book four or book five, he's still a part of my family and he's still going to my son's wedding. Like he's still my friend, like we're friends, and it makes it easier to actually weather the edits, the changes, all these things, because like you're looking out for each other. So like if
Mhm.
there's something that super like Chris super has to have, like the Hollywood chapters, if there's something that he really has to have, then we both stick our foot in the dig our heels in and say, okay, this needs to be there, right? So we're really looking forward to working on the next book. It's really just a matter of finding time.
Yeah.
Because the books are living organisms. Once we lock in with
Yeah,
them, it becomes a full-time job because it'll be like, and Anna and I are both quick writers, and so like we'll write a chapter in a weekend and then send it, and the response has to be, it can't all of a sudden be a month later you get a chapter
yeah.
back.
And that was me. That was me. Like he
No,
would send
no.
it and I would be like late because of our jobs and our careers. And then also, though, his schedule is very unpredictable. Like he could be writing it with me now, and then next week get called and have to go somewhere
Yeah. And then I put the
and
project on hold for like 2 months, and her
and
mom.
shoot, right? So that it's that matter. And your kids too are at the stage where they need like you're traveling with them, taking care of them and helping them to succeed in their careers and stuff. And yeah. So it's just
No,
a matter of finding time, really.
Yeah.
yeah. And it's also funny because I think you couldn't pick um two more opposite people to collaborate. Like Anna's she'll be like, what is the action items? And so organized and like on time and punctual. I mean, she's a CFO running like major companies since I've known her, like massive companies. It's so impressive. And I'm like this little artsy fartsy guy who's like, what time is the interview? She's like, you son of a bitch. I just sent you the link 6 times. Do you need me to like tattoo it on your face? And I'm like,
Yeah, this is like okay, hold on. I'm texting him. He's coming, he's coming. Oh, he's signing on. He's fine.
I mean, literally, it couldn't be like, and we never met. Like at first, we hadn't met for years, and we finally met on the road at a book signing. We
Yeah,
did it in Long Beach, California. We met for the first time um, in person. Uh, it was fun. Like
and your family was there.
yeah,
Your whole family.
it would make a good book or a little like if we wanted to add a little twist to it, like a fun little Hallmark romance movie. I mean, like it was a fun collaboration. You know what I mean? And I think we've had a lot of uh again, life takes over and you like I
Yeah,
think 2023 is that when I was working on what we thought was going to be book three, but we
yeah,
punted it five.
yeah,
It ended up being this story that I kept once I got in it, I basically was writing the outline for it because it was such a the timeline was so specific.
It wasn't
Because
an outline. He wrote like 35,000 words.
yeah, 40 I think it ended up being. But like
Okay.
it became where I was like I have to if I don't construct the whole there wasn't a lot of room for like where do you want to go with it because it was so specific. We had to get to someone's birth. And there was all this stuff and we talked about it. So it wasn't like I was just generating like we'd basically planned the book from the first phone calls that we had when I was shooting Jurassic World in London. Like we had talked about what
Yeah. We know what's gonna happen. We already know how the series is gonna progress.
everything was graphed out and everything was sort of talked about. And so I was just doing all the footwork. But yeah, it ended up in like me writing a little novella and then being
Yeah.
like, hey, you want to add some chapters? And and it was like, I don't this you kind of wrote a thing. I don't there's not
Yeah.
where am I supposed to put it? And I'm
I
like,
was like, you already wrote it. Like I can't add anything, but I think that's gonna see the light of day. So we are planning like an in-between novella thing that Kris actually wrote. So that I mean that's gonna be when we decide and when our publisher decides, what the release dates are. That's just an edit thing, and then it's gonna go as a novella, I think. So yeah, because it's a good standalone. It's a good separate story, and it's a good separate love story. So and to be honest with you, we're in conversations actually to get there's somebody interested in picking up the entire not somebody a company interested in picking up the entire series. So we're talking with them about that. So all good things. We just have to find the time, Kris.
and that's the other thing, Serenity, that the publishing world really runs in chunks of 6 months. So a week in our life is really like 6 months in the publishing world, where like a company that says like we're interested, it takes about 6 months for them to say, yes, here's your stuff. And then you hand them a manuscript. And then it takes about 6 months to get that published and into the world. And so you're looking at like, and that was the thing that was as impatient, as in frustrating as Hollywood is, and it moves like molasses until it just goes, "Poof," and then it's lightning.
Yep.
I was like, wait, so when is the book and when did it?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
and so I was impatient because I was like, well, we turned in a thing, so like now let's get, and then like you miss that window.
You miss that window, you don't get into the catalog,
Yeah,
right? And so like you're risking your entire publicity run. So
just kind of what happened with Where the Sun Rises. We missed a window. We were aiming for spring. We ended up being a fall release. Um, and then
yeah.
it just was a different, we just kind of, and had we just maybe waited, I don't know. I don't know how that would have worked. But yeah, it was interesting because we had missed a window that we were aiming for, and then that is what happened with the follow-up book, is that we just kept the windows, you could feel these little 6 month windows closing, and you're like, well, hold
Yeah.
on.
Plus, I think we're also very particular about the cover. So like even just going through the cover process. I mean, I know we picked it right away, but it took a few
It took a long time to get it right.
revisions for us to agree on that. So it's a whole process. That's all we want you to know. So
There's
yeah.
the rose. Proud of
But
them.
that is such like an aesthetically pleasing series to see them side by side like that. It's just so
Isn't
See,
it?
do the spines line up like we wanted?
Yes.
wow.
Yeah. See, the spines line up. So
Book three is going to be a crashing, like,
yeah.
we had a whole thing planned.
So
Oh
because
wow.
Chris came up with the idea, he wanted it like if we stack them on top of each other, he wanted them to be kind of connected.
Yeah,
And the beautiful thing about these books is, and one of the selling points was they're actually really beautiful
they
books.
are.
Like in your room, they transport you, the actual book itself.
Although Chris is showing you the hardbound copy, and he's the only one that has that. That's not. They're normally paperbacks, but
You made
yeah.
these. Yeah.
Open the page, and they're in color, right? Like
Yeah,
moments
they're
is the
really,
pages are in color.
these are really
They're
pretty.
really pretty. See?
Oh
They're in
my God.
color.
I
They're
love
special
that.
edition. Yeah.
Not cool. They're like really beautiful. And then this one's even like has even more of a bang for your buck.
Oh wow, that is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, cool. We did something, uh, we really did something special. We made a plan and followed through with it.
Yeah,
And
we're so proud of it.
we'll finish this stuff. It's,
Yeah.
life is, again, it really does take on, like, if Anna and I decided to go to Hawaii for 15 days, we could write a book within
Yeah.
that time. It's
Yeah.
just getting the money and the time and all of the energy to go and
Yeah.
really just drop out of life for 3 weeks. I mean, that's a lot. It's a big ask. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm excited to know that there is more in the works and more coming because I absolutely love your books and I love how the characters are also relatable, like not just the main characters, but the side characters and like, you know, Andy and Warren was just an amazing read and I loved how it really connected with like human experiences, like how at first she prioritized work, you know, and you get so caught up in life that you might miss special moments, you know, along the way. So,
Great.
Love it. Well,
Yep.
that's the point, and that was, that's our intention. So if you haven't read these books and you're watching this interview, go get them. They're available everywhere books are sold.
Right. And
And
there's an audiobook.
there's an up for one of them. We need to follow
Yeah.
up. But and then get Anna's new book.
yeah.
It's I'm wearing my hat. I'm wearing my on the road hat in honor of your new book.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Thank you for always supporting me. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
can't recommend these enough. And I was like, I love to annotate my books. And so I always match my highlighter to the cover. And so I would like be reading and I'd just be, oh, highlight, highlight. And then I'll put it down. I was like, okay, I think I'm done for now. And then like 2 seconds later, I'm already highlighting something else. So it was a really, really beautiful read. And I can't recommend it enough for everyone listening to this.
Great.
Okay.
Stay tuned for more. We have more coming. So.
We are very excited for that, and I can't wait for that. And thank you both for guesting on here today. Like I said, you're two of my favorite people, two of my favorite authors, and Kris, you're one of the best actors in existence, and am very happy that you have found this beautiful collaboration with Anna. Like you said, I think God just knew exactly when to open that door and let you guys find each other creatively. And here we are talking about two books with more on the way. So,
And Kris has projects on the way too coming up. So I know he might not be able to tell people yet, but
I've got a few little things in the works. One of them is a movie that I directed and produced called Mimics, which will be in theaters in February. So,
yeah, which I've seen.
which you've seen.
Yeah, and loved. Yeah. So
very
many things, so many blessings, so many good
fun
things.
stuff. Yeah, and we actually do have we have a really beautiful script for moments like this that we are diligently trying to turn into a movie. So we have a lot of fun plans for the From Kona with Love series as a whole.
Yeah. And I think we're just being very careful and picky and thoughtful about it. So,
Yeah, we've had some opportunities, but we don't
Yeah.
want, it's like there's a way to do a movie right, and there's a way to do a movie that's not right. And this deserves the right budget, the right cast, the right location. We could have shot it, in the Caribbean 2 years ago, but like it's not Oahu. And so we're fighting for all the right elements to come into place. And
that is good.
I'm trying to do it while I'm young enough to play Ward, so
We're on a timeline.
that ship might pass here to go way too much longer.
We'll
Like
get
father.
there. Yeah, no, not yet. We have a couple years. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So
Yeah,
all good things.
you want it to be right. Like, you spend so much time creating and crafting, and you want to tell the story the way it needs to be told, visually as well as the written word. So I know it will be perfect when you all have it all come together for you.
So,
Thank
thank you for having us today, Serenity.
Of
Thank
course.
you.
Thank you so
Yes.
much for guesting on here. I've had an absolute blast. Everyone, please go check out Kris and Anna's books. The From Kona with Love series is incredible, and you're just going to find your next new obsession.
And what's the name of your new book, Anna?
Somewhere along the way.
And somewhere along the way, yes.
That right now.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us. Thank you. It was nice to see you guys. Nice to see you, Serenity and Kris. Nice to see you always. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, guys. And I hope you all just have an amazing rest of your wonderful, successful year. And we will be waiting for all your projects to come. Thank you guys so much for guesting on here.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.